Traders, how are you? Marcello, founder of the Day Trading Academy. Today, we're doing the recap of the markets this week. We got tax hikes, we got Bitcoin crashing, we got volcanoes going off, all kinds of stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. So overall, the markets in the U.S. were negative, mostly because of the announcement on Thursday that the Biden administration wants to increase taxes on the wealthy. The capital gains tax he wants to double to 43.4%, and he wants to increase the higher marginal rate, the richest people or the ones that are making the most, to 39.6 from 37. This would essentially mean that in the communist states, the left-leaning, the states like California and New York, which have a higher tax load, you're looking at 52.2% in New York. You're looking at 56.7% in California. It's no surprise that we have a situation where those people are flocking to lower tax states, places like Idaho and Florida and Texas as well. Overseas market news: the European markets are mostly lower for the week as well. The kind of biggest outlier, let's say, it was 4.68% negative for Istanbul. Latin American and Canadian markets mostly mixed as well, with Canada being a negative 1.51%. Middle East and Africa generally mixed as well. Egypt had a good week, 4.5% positive, and in the far East, we had the markets mixed as well, with the biggest loser being the Nikkei in Japan at 2.28%. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency news: huge sell-off on Monday for Bitcoin. It went down over 15% at one point, which is the biggest intraday drop since February. This was reports that were never really confirmed that now the U.S. Treasury is looking at tackling financial institutions for money laundering. And this is obviously through digital assets like Bitcoin and things like that. This is what I always told you guys from the beginning. It's not that Bitcoin isn't going to go up and go down and make record highs. I don't believe that Bitcoin's going to be the new financial system like a lot of people did. I think it's more government coin, right? The digital dollar, the digital euro. And I think now the blockchain technology is going to be behind that. According to BYBT, Bitcoin's flash crash on Sunday was in regards to liquidations, resulting in over 1 million positions being wiped out. We're talking about $10 billion in positions being liquidated. A lot of other cryptos plummeted as well. Ethereum, the second biggest crypto, fell 17% before pulling back a little bit, and Litecoin fell about 24% until it rebounded somewhat. Now, think about this for a second, because there's the reason why I like to do these videos is because I want you guys to learn, right? And I always tell you guys, don't pay attention to what they say, pay attention to what they do. Do you guys not remember what happened with the GameStop Reddit situation, where when they were popping a GameStop, what happened? Oh, the system crashed. So the whales could sell. They wouldn't let you buy or sell, but they let the whales sell, right? What happened right now with Dogecoin? I did a video on the Spanish side. I have to do a lot better job of doing these videos in English. But I did an analysis on my Instagram talking about the expectation in the short term and the long term. Doesn't mean that Dogecoin won't necessarily make a record high in the future. You can see, for example, what happened with Bitcoin. 2017 hit almost 20,000, but then it kind of pulled back. It didn't make a new record high until 2021. So the question is, do you want to wait how many years to be able to make your money back wherever you bought? Dogecoin, same thing. Market spikes. What happens? Oh, Robinhood. Oh, no. The markets, the system crashed. Oh, we can't. Those are the whales getting out. So now I have the question: if we have $10 billion in positions being closed out, is this a possible trigger for a downtrend in Bitcoin right now? Obviously, if you look at it from a monthly chart, it's really not that negative, but it's not unusual. Obviously, it hasn't had a down month, for example, 7 or 8 months. So this could be a period where we're going to have a little bit of a downtrend, especially since you see whales, right? When you see the whales selling, people like Bill Gates, for example, sold all his stocks. Warren Buffett sold $29 billion in stocks last year. I want to do that video for you guys as well. Leave me a comment there if you guys want me to do that video for you. When the big guys are selling, you know something's up, right? Because they don't lose any money. It's only us, the little guys, losing money. Other than that, the price of Bitcoin may soon fall much further, according to some analysts. That's why I was mentioning as well about possibly we're in a downtrend now. The U.S. government reportedly is increasingly concerned over the price of Bitcoin and its increasing use. The CEO of Kraken, which is one of the top crypto exchanges, this isn't like, Joe Schmo on like Jamie Dimon, the fool who always gets everything wrong when he's talking about it. This is guy pro Bitcoin, right? Pro crypto, the CEO of the Kraken crypto exchange. He's warning of a government crackdown is indeed coming. And the Biden administration is saying that they're setting up a new regulatory framework for Bitcoin and cryptos as well. So now it's coming, right? So now what's going to happen now with this regulation, which is what I always mentioned to you guys before. I don't think that Bitcoin is going to be the new financial system. I think it's going to be government coin. And I'll do a video, I think, this week about the Chinese digital currency and the alarming things they can do with it, like turn it off and make it expire. Overall for the week, Bitcoin was negative, down 6.41%. Commodities are lower this week. U.S. oil was down 1.59% at about 62.14. International oil, which is called Brent, was down about 0.89%, 66.11. Precious metals didn't do much this week either. Marginally positive. Gold went up 0.02% to 1777. Silver was up 0.07% at 2607. And if you guys don't know, I mostly do swing trading now with the miners, right? The junior miners or the silver miners, meaning the stocks of the companies that mine silver because of the volatility that we've been seeing. And now it looks like, based on the value, that gold coins are actually better values than silver coins, especially if you can find the 1/4 or 1/10 ounce, depending on the situation. Remember, do your own research. Don't go out and start, this isn't trading advice or investing advice or anything like that. Make sure you do your own research before you kind of invest in your portfolio, but something to think about, because if, I saw a sale, for example, for a 1/4 ounce coin that was $1,900, we're going to be there like that. The US dollar in financial and banking news hit 6-week lows. Against its major peers, the dollar index reached a 7-week low against 6 major currencies. Treasury yields, which are the interest on the U.S. debt, went to its nearest low in 5 weeks, and the U.S. benchmark 10-year yield dropped to 0.02, which is about 1.56% or so. This is a good thing for our debt, but now we have a situation where the national debt is now exceeding $123 trillion, says a new report. It's more than 4 times what the official government Treasury Department reports, at about $28 trillion. So you're looking at about an $800,000 price tag per person. So feel free to start paying that with interest, obviously, right? Because if you don't pay it on time. We added $10 trillion to the debt. Now, the thing that adds up to that big number, to the $123 trillion, is, and key word here is unfunded liabilities, meaning that there's no money there. Unfunded Social Security, if you guys are going into retirement, unfunded Social Security obligations at $41.20 trillion, and Medicare at about $55.12 trillion in liabilities. So we're definitely headed in it. I don't think you guys realize the economic. There's a video that I'm going to do where there's a McDonald's in Tampa right now. I just read the article that's paying people $50 to come just to an interview, and nobody's taking them up on the offer. It's like, even the whole thing with the taxes that Biden's doing, right? 80% of the debt right now is 80% of the budget is debt. So why would you raise taxes? Why would you make people pay more taxes when you're just printing money? So the actual question I have is, well, so what are they really trying to do? Are they trying to destroy the middle class so everybody relies on the government instead of being free to go out and create your own wealth, right? Begs the question. Political news: Cuba finally moved past its Castro-era Communist Party president. The new president, Miguel Diaz-Canel, is going to replace Raul Castro as the party chief, even though he's still going to refer Castro on the wonders of the communist and socialist system that they've been living in Cuba. Other than that, the economic news: the unemployment rate in the UK unexpectedly fell for the second month in a row. It's 4.9% December-February period. This is a bit unusual due to the fact that they have been in quarantine and lockdowns perpetually. They're a lot more strict than even some of the places here in the US. And so this is mainly due to the subsidies program, right? This is why I kind of just mentioned a moment ago in regards to the taxes, where the taxes aren't going to destroy the economy. They already deal with the stimulus because nobody wants to go out and work. I just drove quite a bit in the U.S. and everybody's hiring, right? The lower, not lower budget, but the kind of entry level jobs, places like McDonald's and all these places, they're what really power the economy. Right? Not everybody's rich, but there's a lot more people on that lower end. And if they're just relying for their next stimulus paycheck and they're not going out to work, then the workers aren't going to be able to do their jobs to support everybody else up the chain. It's not going to end well. Initial claims for unemployment in the U.S. decreased about 39,000 as of the April 17th. So it still looks like we're starting to see a little bit of a recovery in the labor market in the U.S. Sales of U.S. single-family homes rebounded by more than expected in March. It exploded 20.7% to just over 1 million units for the seasonally adjusted rate. In corporate news, Tesla had a fatal car crash. It killed 2 people that unfortunately there was nobody. The police report stated that there was nobody driving in the car. So even though that kind of dropped a little bit the stock, overall for the year, Tesla's still up 0.54%. Other companies reported exploding earnings and revenue as well. BMW in Q1 stated that they had 370% increase in earnings, stated more than anything because of strong Chinese demand. Harley Davidson, the American motorcycle company, reported that they expect their revenue to grow 30 to 35%. Which is an increase of the previous guidance of 20 to 25, and the Q1 results are up to 29% of about $1.42 billion in revenue. Netflix, although didn't have as good of news, they stated that since they weren't able to invest as much money in production for new movies and TV shows, their subscriptions went down, so they had a little bit of a negative result to that. Their sales fell about 7.40%. Apple posting record revenue and profits as well. Their shares are up 1.80% on the news, and they're starting to get rid of that big cash flow, the cash, not flow, but cash in general that they have. So they're increasing their buybacks of the stocks and also increase their dividend. In technology, SpaceX is launching 4 astronauts from the US, Japan, France into orbit on Friday, which was last Friday. They reached the International Space Station, the ISS, without a problem. They actually were using a recycled capsule, a recycled rocket, and this is part of the reason why we kind of see this new kind of industry in space, blowing up, because people like Elon Musk have revolutionized space travel where you don't have to, in his words, he says, imagine if you had to fly from one place to another and you had to throw away the airplane every time. Then nobody would fly because the cost would be astronomical. And that's basically what happens with space travel now. Elon Musk has actually revolutionized the space because now you can use recycled rockets. It's a lot cheaper. So everybody's going to be able to go to Mars and have their honeymoon there soon. Other than that, first powered flight to another world, NASA Mars 2020 mission was able to extract molecules of oxygen from carbon dioxide molecules for the first time. So it looks like we actually are going to have a way to be able to breathe there on Mars, which is actually great news since things are going so great here on Earth. International news, Duterte, which is the president of the Philippines, said that he was prepared to send his military ships into the South China Sea to stake claim in the mineral resources and oil resources in the disputed part. Remember, China's creating they're creating a huge zone in international and other territories' waters, meaning that they're saying that the territorial waters of the Philippines is theirs instead of actually being of the Philippines. And the critics have complained that Duterte wasn't as tough. He was a little bit too soft in trying to force China to comply with an international arbitration ruling in regards to that, meaning that there was an international court that said China can't do that, but that they just continue to do it anyway. All sides have reaffirmed once again, reaching a commitment. There's going to be a what's called a Normandy format for the governments of Ukraine, Russia, Germany, and France that are starting to gather to be able to come to an agreement to stop the increasing tensions in Ukraine. With Russia, I know you guys don't see it a lot in the news, but there's a big buildup of the military off the border of Ukraine with Russia. In India, the world's second largest populace, the world's second biggest country in terms of population and a major energy consumer, reported that its death toll on Tuesday was an astronomical number. It's actually really sad what's going on right now in India because they collapsed the health system. They didn't have a good health system to begin with, and now they're literally starting to just burn bodies in the sidewalk in front of people's homes and things due to the coronavirus. In unusual facts this week, one of Singapore's largest ever suspected investment fraud schemes. I'm not going to even intend to try to say his name. You guys can see it right here. You guys could try to say it. 33-year-old was charged with 4 counts of fraud of raising at least $740 million in trades that actually didn't exist. The city-state has seen assets under management swell to $3 trillion, which has led to a little bit more fraud. And in the natural disasters and weather anomalies that I told you I was going to start including here in the recap, 52 volcanoes have erupted last month in March, which is very unusual. In August 2017, they also discovered 91 volcanoes beneath the ice sheet in Antarctica. So we the government and everybody talks so much about the humans changing the climate, and all that needs to happen is 1 or 2 of these volcanoes in Antarctica. It'll melt the ice sheet. The water levels will increase by 60 meters or so. That in feet, I don't know the conversion, but it's probably something like 100 feet. That would cause the chaos everywhere, right? And then the warming of the oceans would cause the Greenland ice sheet to melt, which causes even more problems, but it's all humans' fault. And one of the highest volcanoes that they found there in Antarctica was nearly 2 miles tall. We're talking about, I think it's about a kilometer and change. And literally right now, while I'm recording this in the evening on Saturday, Mount Sakurajima in Japan just went off as well. And this is interesting because many of you guys didn't hear about, for example, the year without a summer in the 1800s, if I'm not mistaken. There was a volcano, one of the most powerful in the world in Indonesia, that went off, blanketed the world with so much ash that it blocked out the sun, and the next year they had trouble growing food. So this is why I kind of mention this stuff, because we're seeing an increased activity of these things, earthquakes as well, which I think in the next few years we're probably going to see some sort of the big one in California, possibly even around the Mississippi fault, right? The New Madrid fault, many don't know, was the strongest recorded earthquake in U.S. history, which changed the direction of the Mississippi River. Something to think on. And a second Earth solar flare caused a shortwave radio blackout in the Southeast Asia. This is actually something that can happen as well, where you have what's called a CME. Basically, think of it like a solar storm, where the sun has the solar storm that ejects off of the sun. And we actually have had these before. It's something called the Carrington event in the 1800s, where it literally knocked out part of our electrical grid, called the telegraph system, which was developed by the UK. So something to feast on, because these things are starting to increase in frequency, and you might want to become a prepper. Maybe. That's your news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week.